Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast, and we've got no guests, but that's okay, because you've got the two best NFL podcast hosts manning this podcast and bringing you everything you need. News, predictions, stats, everything. So don't you worry. If you check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, or even iTunes, you can subscribe to all of them. In fact, you should subscribe to all of them. It's a big help to us, it's a big help to the channel, and it gets more lovely content flowing. So here we go. This is CookieCast, Laces Out.
Recording in progress.
Well, there you go. It's a surprise to me. I don't know about you. Audio listeners, you're going to be horrifically disappointed this week and this is not through anybody's fault other than the would-be guests. No guests this week on the NFL football podcast. Do you need guests when you've got two of the... I don't want to say goats of NFL podcasting, but if I don't, somebody else is going to. So you know, guests are just like little sprinklings on the top of a decadent dessert. So you know,
podcast Sunday, if you will.
Absolutely. Which could always turn into Podcast After Dark if you're doing it right. I am here, and the voice you also heard or saw is the ever-present co-host of the Laces Out podcast, Paul Williams. I need to stop sitting in this chair because I've started doing this. I look like a crazy person. So I'm gonna make a conscious effort to stop. So let's see how long that lasts. We've got picks, predictions, and all of those lovely things in between. We've got stats. One thing that's nice about the stats mistress being out for the season with a horrific injury is nothing but time on her hands, isn't she? So the stats were prompt this morning, very prompt. So we've got stats, and then obviously we need to talk about the upcoming games. Maybe we'll mention the fantasy football this week for one reason or another. So yes. So, where would you like to start?
Well, obviously, as discussed at the beginning of the podcast, there is sadly no third. There's no third wheel or even fourth wheel on this particular week's broadcast. As unfortunately, we weren't able to. We didn't have the budget. We'll go with that. We weren't able to secure enough space in the budget.
The salary cap was gone long ago. Let's put it this way. I looked at who our opponents were this week and I went, nope. And that was the end of that. So the sin bin bench is being truly warmed, and yeah, our other opponent has been like, Don't call me. I'm probably not going to call you. So we have to move on as best we can.
What is it? Adapt and overcome.
Absolutely. We did flash the bat signal, and we nearly got a Batman to replace this week's guests, but sadly Gotham needed him, and he had to go and attend to a supervillain type situation.
It's very true. It's very true. He did. said person did actually offer some picks in lieu of a guest appearance on said podcast, but we found a bit of a formula now when there's no guest.
I thought you were about to say we found a fall guy when there's no guest. I was like,
I mean, she probably wouldn't be. She probably wouldn't appreciate being called a fall guy. But yeah, in the event of the weeks where we're not able to secure a rogue third, we have the as always beautiful selections by the beautiful guest. May I add? So yes, this week's guest predictions will be coming from the lovely Amy Brinton in her much ballyhooed knowledge of all things NFL, or specifically 31 teams, and then the Washington football team that she loves so dearly. So can't wait to see which team she's selected in their game this week.
so I'm working
Answers on a postcard.
Yeah, I'm working on the principle that this is just an interlude to when she actually straps on those podcast pants and gets stuck in. When your one seat turns into a 2 seat at your end.
Well, what I might do is I'm going to wait until the week that I know they're on the bye, and then we can get her on because she won't have to sort of get all pissed off and stuff when she has to hear their names spoken. But
I was going to say that she was going to turn up dressed in a particular outfit and then realise that you can't say that anymore. So I pulled the ripcord on that one real quick. I was like, let's move. So let's find out what last week looked like. Week 7 of the NFL 2021 season. Picks were made, predictions were made, games were played.
so, obviously, no guest, therefore no season-long picks.
No.
Either of Super Bowl or MVP. So we dive straight into last week's games, as Mr. Cook has just alluded to there. So, there were 6 teams on the bye this week. Therefore, there was only 13 games in total.
Indeed.
13 points up for grabs. In joint second place / last place, if you want to look at it glass half empty, I suppose, with 9 out of 13 selections correct.
Not bad.
It's a more than respectable score. It was the guest, Mr. Matthew 2T's Herlihy. But which one of me and Andy was it that also missed out on a 10th point?
It's going to be me. It's always me.
He is grimacing, ladies and gentlemen, and unfortunately for him, it was indeed Mr. Andrew Cook with 9 out of 13 selections. Now, interestingly, you didn't both get the same 4 wrong.
Wow.
You did both select the 49ers over the Colts, which we all got wrong. The Ravens over the Bengals, which we all got wrong, and I'm pretty sure we won't have been the only ones.
Nope.
We all also selected the Panthers to beat the Giants, which we were very wrong about. However, that was the end of my errors of judgment. Whereas, unfortunately, Andy picked the Chiefs to beat the Titans.
Shit.
And Matthew chose the Broncos to beat the Browns. Unfortunately, meant that you boys came up a cropper, and I, whilst only getting 3 incorrect, managed to steal or obtain another point in the secure. That's exactly the word I was looking for, Mr. Cook. I have secured a 10th point for the week, giving me the 1 point in the overall standings, which means that for the season as a running total, the guest is on 1 point, Mr. Cook is on 1.5 points, and I am out in the lead on 4.5 points.
I mean, it's quite ridiculous at this point in time. It's starting to shape up like an uncatchable lead, and that's.
I don't want to sort of be that guy, but it's starting to look a little bit NFC Easty with the Cowboys. Couple of games out in front of the others, the other stragglers.
Yeah.
In the league, but you know what? There's still. I can't do the maths that quick. It's 11 weeks left. Because it normally would be 17 weeks.
Yeah, but it's 18 this
Obviously,
season.
this year there'll be 18 weeks with the extra game.
Indeed.
So we've still got 11 weeks worth of picks to play for. It's wide open from a predictions perspective. But it is nice to be sat there with a 3-point gap. I'm not going to lie.
Well, there we go. That is not what I was looking for. Not ideal. But, just makes me try harder each week. Obviously, you mentioned a couple of those games. That Bengals-Ravens game was insanity. You've got the Giants that have decided to start some would call trickery, some would say tomfoolery. Making their quarterback an active receiver, things like that. Browns Broncos. It was a bit like flip a coin in some ways. Pretty sure I put Baker on the bench. That leads nicely into talking about some fantasy football. You'll appreciate this. I've decided to dub my my fantasy team the Middlesbrough of fantasy football, because apparently when my team, my awful team, goes up against like top tier fantasy teams, apparently I can pull it out of the bag.
Interesting.
I managed to win, and I have no idea how, because I went up against. I think when I checked last week, he was second in our league.
I think there was a lot of teams on the same record. So I think if he was second, he was joint second.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to put like 6 backups in or something. And it was one of those. Went to bed. Yeah, we've got this one in the bag. And then woke up like, whoo, that was close. Let's have a look at our standings. So he's joint 4th at this point in time with a lot of others, but I imagine, like I say, previous to that. At this point in time, I would like to throw out a big fat well done to Mr. Rob Rafton on his joint 1st position. And podcast favourite, the biggest, friendliest giant in town, the JFG, joint 1st. Well done. One of our no-show guests would be next. Paul, did you have a win this week?
I certainly did, Andrew.
Well done.
What's more, I broke the triple-digit barrier, so I managed to post 100 points for potentially the first week this season.
Nice work.
Very happy with that. Very happy.
I had one of those amazing weeks where I managed to pull it out of the bag in the big league. In the little league, I didn't even break 50 points. The stats mistress, who was my opponent, doubled the points I had to win the week, which was just one of those weeks. Like I say, both of my fantasy teams were very much hit by buys. When you're dropping into your backups, who half of which are questionable, and some are even injured and stuff. It's a bit like I'll do the best I can, scramble to pick some people up, stuff like that. So that there is the fantasy, and we know what happened in the games. So we'd like to keep you people updated with some stats There are two sporting giants that love stats. One is the NFL, the other is the WWE. We'll get to them next week, but right now we're talking about the first one. We've got lovely stats, so that you don't have to sit and listen to my terrible voice for too long. We've split the stats as we like to do. I like to share the love, and because I'm a giver, I gave Paul the lion's share. One of those, I say that, I think the last stat I gave you might be 2 lines, might be like a few words. Big shout out to the stats mistress for, like I say, getting the stats to us promptly, but let's face it, what else has she got to do? This is... Big shout out to the stats mistress. I believe that these are also brought to us by Nate Davis of USA Today, but correlated by the stats mistress into bite-sized chunks. When I say bite-sized chunks, first stat of the week is freaking huge. See, I've had to wet my whistle before starting. NFL Week 7 stats of the 2021 season. And our first stat is about everybody's favourite quarterback. Valiant effort by the Detroit Lions quarterback Jared Goff, who hung tough against the Los Angeles Rams and ex-Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford before succumbing 28-19. Detroit led after 3 quarters, recovering an onside kick and successfully executed a pair of fake punts. It was all for nothing as quarterback Jared Goff threw a killer interception to ex-teammate Jalen Ramsey in the end. Goff, 2 interceptions, sacked twice Sunday, still hasn't won a game when not wearing a Rams uniform. He's also winless in the past 10 starts. Detroit are 0-7 for the 4th time in franchise history, and the only team still in danger of going 0-17 in 2021. We have talked at length about the Stafford situation, the Goff situation, the Lions, the Rams. I obviously, you've got Red Zone on. Red Zone love to get all over the trick plays, oh my God, this is happening in this game, check it out. And obviously for a big chunk of time, they just kept hitting that Lions Rams game because it was, it was all go. Like it's saying there was a lot of stuff going on. I know Goff had been quoted earlier in the week to say that he was very much looking, as you would be, to beat your previous team, and going 3 quarters. But yeah, there is, as has been the case for, many years at this point, there is something deeply wrong with the Lions. So, obviously, we'll have to see what happens there. Second stat is, well, let's face it, it's the Arizona Cardinals. League's only undefeated team remains the Arizona Cardinals, 7-0 for the second time in franchise history. The Cards knocked off the Houston Texans on Sunday in the first NFL game ever to end in 31-5. Scorigami, as we were talking about last week, Scott Hansen of Red Zone fame loves it, and I think we're sort of getting into it. I think we love it as well. Obviously, week in, week out, we have to have this stat. If the NFL playoffs started tomorrow, which they don't, the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 5-2 for the first time since 2013, would be the AFC's number 1 seed. Week in, week out, it keeps coming back to like obviously they beat the Ravens. I enjoy watching the Ravens. I enjoy, the whole, especially the Lamar Jackson era of the Ravens. I've always liked the Ravens for various different reasons. I was always a big T-Sizzle fan. But I can't get away from the fact that I really like Bengals football this year. I love the Joe Burrows Bengals combination. It's good. I like it. I'm enjoying it. So although it was like that sort of downer watching the Ravens get beaten, it was also that simultaneous like, I mean the Bengals are looking legit.
Certainly are.
Speaking of the Bengals wide receiver Lamar Chase caught 8 passes for 201 yards, most by an AFC player this year, in Sunday's 41-17 blowout of the Baltimore Ravens, who fell out of first place in the AFC North. Chase is the first player since the 1970 AFL to NFL merger with at least 50 receiving yards in his first 7 games. His 754 yards are most ever by a rookie through 7 games. I mean, I think there was stats on top of stats in that stat.
Have you just done stat inception?
Yes. It was a fourth wall inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls. Number 5. Speaking of the Ravens, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson lost to the Bengals for the first time. Previously 5-0, and for the first time as a starter in October. Previously 9-0. Baltimore has allowed more than 500 yards twice in the past 3 weeks. Something may be going on. And my final stat for this week is this. Atlanta Falcons rookie Kyle Pitts, who we definitely didn't leave on the bench this week, 7 catches for 163 yards, and Cincinnati's CJ Azuma, 3 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, were the headlines on National Tight End Day. Shout out to Zach Ertz, who played well. 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown in his Cardinals debut. Yeah, the whole National Tight End Day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm convinced it's a joke, and they're just sort of like they're just doing it to sort of like keep up with the band. I don't know. It's a very strange one. But I believe that is my cue to take over.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah, in the stats arena. So, meanwhile, in Tampa Bay, Tom Brady became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 600 regular season touchdown passes in a 38-3 rout of the Chicago Bears. Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans caught Brady's milestone touchdown strike, but absent-mindedly tossed it into the stands. The Bucs equipment staff eventually recovered the keepsake pigskin. However, Brady's most important completion occurred when he gifted a Bucs hat to a young fan in the stands who had a sign signalling the quarterback helped him to beat brain cancer. The greatest of all time, indeed. Pretty cool.
It's one of those things. I'm very much aware that Tom Brady has a lot of charities. Does a lot for charity, and a lot of those charities do what is nothing short of amazing work. Like a lot of charities do. But what I can say is this: I hear a lot more about the charities that Tom Brady supports than I hear about a lot of other charities. So he's obviously doing something. That young lad was a young lad, and to be able to say, thanks to you, I'm here now. It's a massive thing.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
cool.
you know, you got to give it up for the Tomper.
He's not well liked for his football based shenanigans, but he definitely should be celebrated for his
Off the field.
entrepreneurial sort of want outside of the football realm, because, like I say, he definitely gives back in a very big way. So,
Yeah.
Congratulations to him for that. We carry on with the top 5 teams in the NFC. The Cardinals, the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Los Angeles Rams have a combined 4 losses. None of which of those teams have 2 losses. It's going to be a dogfight to the end to get that number 1 playoff seed, and with it, the 1 bye.
I mean, that is bonkers stat. That is insane.
It is, but after that, the drop off is quite severe.
Yeah.
I think you've maybe got the Saints, who are sort of 4-3 after that, and then it's not great. It's not great viewing.
No.
Obviously, you've got the NFC least, where the Cowboys are the only one who've only lost 1 game. Yeah, it's not pretty. The Kansas City Chiefs are 3-4 for the 9th time during the Super Bowl era. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes has to be wondering which way's up, especially after he got folded like a lawn chair while getting knocked out of Sunday's 27-3 loss to the Tennessee Titans. The 2018 MVP has now thrown an interception in 6 straight games for the first time in his career, and also experienced his first 27-point deficit in the NFL. Mahomes, who entered Week 7 with an NFL-high 18 touchdown passes, was shot out through the air for the 4th time in his career and first in the past 32 regular season games.
I know we keep coming back to this. I know we hammered it home a lot last week, and I know that you can't escape it, though. Something is seriously wrong in Kansas City. Now, I will say this, and this probably won't go over all that well. I did see something on one of the NFL pages this week, and I was crying. And it just said across the top, Patrick Mahomes has never been the same since this photograph. And it was his engagement picture. And I looked at it and I went,
wow.
You're right, you know.
Just gonna breeze straight past that one. Meanwhile, the Titans look legit, proving they can win convincingly, even when MVP candidate Derrick Henry, only 86 rushing yards, had a relatively quiet day. Although King Henry did throw his first regular season touchdown pass on Sunday.
Yep.
Second-year Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa now has 7 interceptions in his last 5 starts. He had 2 in his first 9 NFL appearances, including 2 Sunday, as his team continued its death spiral to 1-6. Tagovailoa did have a career-best 4 touchdown passes in Sunday's loss to the Falcons, but don't expect those Deshaun Watson trade rumours to dissipate until after the November 2nd trade deadline has passed. So what's that put us at? That's Tuesday next week,
Yeah. I saw stuff talking about the Deshaun Watson stuff, saying why any team would consider trading for him at this point in time with everything that's going on. It's insanity.
It really is, when you consider that what the Texans would be expecting to get to give him up. You'd imagine it's going to be first round picks, plural.
Yeah.
You're not exactly going to get in for like a late 6th round sort of selection, are you? It's going to be a high price, and it's going to be multiple.
But then what?
first round
But then
picks.
what? To literally stick him on the bench?
Well, I suppose the argument is that I don't think he's been banned from playing.
Nope,
I think he's still eligible to play.
I believe
The
so.
Texans are just refusing to play.
Yeah.
So, what that means, but I'd be very surprised if a team trades for him, given what they're going to have to give up. And listen, obviously, innocent until proven guilty. I get all that and stuff like that, but it's not a great look for a team to be trading for a guy who's in an active, ongoing investigation into, potential sexual misconduct and stuff
absolutely.
like that. And it's not something that you want to burden your franchise with the potential to have to answer that question and stuff like that. So it's one of those situations where, for both the player and the league, it's something that needs to be sorted sooner rather than later, and the investigation just needs to be. It just needs to be done now.
Yeah.
It needs to be done, finished. He's either guilty or he's not guilty, and he should be allowed to either play football again if he isn't guilty. If he's not guilty, but if he is found guilty, then he needs to face the consequences of it, basically. And it's something that it needs clearing up so that the Texans can move on fully, and any other team that was thinking of trading for him, such as the Dolphins potentially, the Broncos potentially, they can move on with their sort of their franchises and that. But fingers crossed it'll get sorted within the next couple of weeks. But I wouldn't be holding out any hope.
No.
Last two stats to go through this week. So congrats to former Orlando Apollos, whoever they are. Congratulations to former Orlando Apollos star, Ernest Johnson. Despite being listed as running back 4 on Cleveland's official depth chart, his first NFL start was a memorable one, and one that he'll never forget, after Johnson racked up 168 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown in the Browns' 17-14 victory over the Denver Broncos. Despite injuries to Cleveland quarterback Baker Mayfield and top running backs Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the Browns' loaded roster is still perfectly capable of keeping them afloat until reinforcements arrive. I did see a few bits of that as I tried to stay up and watch the game. Obviously, because we're in the UK, it was at about 2-3 in the morning, and I was a little bit tired. So unfortunately, I didn't stay up for the full game, but I saw most of it, I'd say. And yeah, fair play to the lad. He's come in a difficult spot where you've got to take over from arguably the best running back tandem in the league in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb.
Yep.
And he certainly didn't disappoint. And then finally, this isn't really a stat as much, it's just a sort of an end of a streak, so to speak. But this was the first week this season where no games required overtime.
No overtime.
Sad. The week streak is snapped at 6. Good.
Meh.
Gutted.
So there we go. That is the stats done, the picks and all of that done from last week. We talked fantasy. I think we can basically close the book on week 7. The history book is closed. There we go. All that leaves us is to look towards week 8. We can look forward to week 8. Obviously, we're in bye season now, so we'll still be dealing with the byes. Obviously, that affects things like people's fantasy teams, as I can attest to last week. So, if you're a fantasy football player and you haven't checked your bye weeks yet, do so immediately, just in case. I know for a fact that I have sent my picks in, and as covered at the top of the episode, we have guest picks. So, Paul, how are the picks shaping up this week?
Well, as Andy said, obviously we've hit the buys. So there were 6 teams on bye last week. There are 2 teams on bye this week. It's just the Baltimore Ravens and the the Las Vegas Raiders that are on the bye this week. Therefore, 15 games left to pick from. We start with. I don't even think it's arguably. I think it basically is game of the week on the Thursday Night Football.
It's a doozy.
It's the Green Bay Packers travelling to the only undefeated team in the NFL. It is the Arizona Cardinals, and what a game it's going to be. Obviously, the Packers on the road, maybe not as strong as they are at home, but still a formidable force, no matter what the location, what the situation is. It's indoors in Arizona, so they won't have to deal with the sort of the
No
elements
to deal with. No.
So it's a dome stadium. It's conditions are all sort of predetermined and things like that. So there's 2 people who believe the Cardinals will maintain their undefeated streak and pin another loss onto the Packers. One of those people is pointing at himself right now.
This guy is definitely one of them.
You are one of them. The other one is guest predictor for this week, Miss Amy Brinton. She has also picked the Cardinals to carry on their winning streak. I, however, have gone with the Packers because if we journey back to week 1 of this particular season's NFL podcast, my Super Bowl prediction for this particular season is the Green Bay Packers versus the Buffalo Bills. So I can't be ditching the boys now, can I? I can't be saying that when the going gets tough, the tough run off to Arizona and have a little cry.
The tough pick the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly. So I just think that there's been holes that have been picked at to a certain degree in the Cardinals game.
So
I think a team like the Packers could exploit.
And this is the thing. I hate to say it, but it needs saying. Cardinals aren't going undefeated. It's that simple. There are holes in that team. They managed to work with what they've got and get those wins, but they're not going to go undefeated. They are going to come a cropper at some point. If there was ever a time for that to happen, going up against the Green Bay Packers, absolutely a point in time. I looked at this game and it was one of the tougher games to pick. And I looked at it and I was like, I got to go with the Cardinals purely because of the streak. And at this point in time, I'd rather go with the streak than work on the principle that at some point they're going to lose a game. And like I say, this could easily be that game.
Well, there's the saying to ride the hot hand and stuff like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if the game goes either way. Yeah. Personally, it's definitely one of those 50-50 shots for me. But I just think that obviously the Packers are on a 5-game winning streak.
They lost the first game, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost against the Saints.
Saints, game 1
in Jacksonville, no less. Because obviously New Orleans was affected by the hurricane. Yeah, that was it. Ongoing. So, lost the first game, but then they've won the next 6. So, were they on bye at some point? Either way, they've not lost since week 1. I just think that it's one of those games where Aaron Rodgers will just cook something up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're 1-2.
Make JJ look a little bit silly.
I'm pretty sure they're 6-1. And they lost the first game because there was all that controversy around whether Rodgers had done it on purpose.
Yeah,
clearly not the case 6 games later, but
So that's our Thursday Night Football offering. We then move on to the Saturday 5 PM games if you're over here in the UK, as our clocks go back on Saturday evening, whereas the clocks in the States don't go back until the following week. So we benefit from the extra hour by not having to stay up as late to watch our beloved American hand egg games. So at 5 p.m. this coming Sunday, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers travelling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. And this is the first, which I was a bit surprised at, of our consensus picks. We've all gone for the Browns to get the result here. Now, could be big that it's in Cleveland, but they're still not full strength. Obviously, they're going to be missing Kareem Hunt, as he's designated to, he's on IR for at least 3 weeks.
I just think the Steelers are another one of those teams where they've been hit with a little bit of injury. I believe is TJ still out?
No, TJ Watt was definitely back in for the game last week.
Juju out for the season?
Juju's done for the season, but TJ Watt was definitely back in.
Right. But Juju's gone, and obviously we've got this. I mean, let's face it, you don't know what Roethlisberger's going to do 1 minute to the next. Is he going to throw an interception? Is he going to throw it down the field? Who knows?
It's very true. But yes, we've all gone for the consensus pick of the Browns. Next up, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals going to New York to take on the Jets. I don't think we need to get into who we picked there.
Jets all the way.
Of course.
Go Jets.
We then have the Tennessee Titans travelling with a division game? Yeah, division game to take on the Indianapolis Colts. I was a little bit surprised in this one, in that there was no one that picked the Colts, even though they're on a little bit of a run at the minute. We've all gone for the Titans. I'm assuming that's just because of Derrick Henry being
an absolute beast.
A bit of a beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, that's another game where I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts pull something out there, because
absolutely.
It's a divisional game. They're at home. They've hit a bit of form. Who knows? It could go either way. One game that probably won't go either way is our next game, which is the LA Rams travelling to Houston to take on the Texans.
No, it's not going to go either way, is it?
Yeah, this is one of those games where you can file under, if they keep it under 20 points difference, the Texans have done well for me. Next up, we've got a difference in opinion game. So we have the Philadelphia Eagles travelling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Now, Mr. Cook sees something he likes in the Eagles, whereas both myself and Miss Brinton have picked this as the week when Jared Goff gets that first win, gets that elusive win. They're at home. The Eagles are very, very poor. I can't see the Lions going all season without a win. So, yeah, it's happening. Lions fans, get your money on the boys. They'll bring the bacon home this weekend. Next up, we have the out of sorts San Francisco 49ers traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears.
The Bears.
And this is a similar one. So Andy has gone for the 49ers to snap their little losing streak they've got going at the minute. Whereas both myself and Amy have picked the Bears.
I don't really know what's going on with the Bears. They've got they've got the rookie quarterback situation going on. Justin Fields. I don't know.
I think they've sort of made a bit of a rod for their own back, really, by saying that Fields is the starter moving forward until something else happens. Because obviously they're paying themselves into a bit of a corner there by saying that. Whereas obviously you've got Andy Dalton. He's not an elite level quarterback by any means, but he's a good steady hand, and he'll be able to. He's the sort of player that I'd imagine will be able to drag a team through a game. Whereas with Justin Fields, he just looked like he was getting beaten up by the Bucs on Sunday.
Yeah, he looked out of his element.
Yeah, he really, really struggled.
It's going to happen, isn't it?
So I think the Bears should have enough, just about to get over the line on that one. Next up, we have the crumbling Carolina Panthers travelling to Atlanta for another division game to take on the Falcons. Now, both myself and Andy have gone with the Falcons to keep the run going here, because they've sort of gone from being not dead and buried by any means, but a little bit. The season looked like it was petering out a little bit there, but they've managed to string a couple of wins together. It's not looking as bad anymore. So I think they should carry on that winning streak and stuff like that. Whereas Amy's gone for the Panthers to just pick up and get their season back on track and stuff like that. What have we got next? Oh dear. Next up, we've got another division game, and if you were the Miami Dolphins and you just lost 6 on the spin, where's one of the last places you want to be going right now?
I mean, I probably wouldn't want to be going up against like the Buccaneers.
Maybe a nice trip to nice and temperate Buffalo.
I wouldn't want to go up against the Bills either.
No, you certainly wouldn't, would you? So,
no.
So that's going to be a thumping Bills win this weekend then. Next up, we have the New England Patriots going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, both myself and Andy have picked the Chargers this one. Back off the bye, refreshed, ready to rock and roll. Whereas Amy has picked the Patriots to carry on they had a very impressive win. Granted, it was against the Jets, but still, you put 50 points on the board, you've got to be a pretty decent team to do that. So,
I mean, anytime anybody plays the Jets, it's basically a freebie.
True. I would imagine the Chargers will have enough to win that game.
Oh, absolutely.
There's been times this season where, like, obviously the game against the Ravens, where they just got shut down. It could happen again. But like, Chargers are at home, so should really have enough to take care of business there.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Fairly straightforward pick for myself and Andy. We've gone for the Seahawks, whereas Amy fancies the Jaguars to get another win on the old sketch. So we'll see what happens with that one. Next up, it is the Washington football team against the Denver Broncos. We already know what Amy's picked, just from life. Both myself and Andrew agree with her, though. We have also gone for the Denver Broncos to get the win on that one. That's more the fact that I think the Broncos are less shit than Washington.
Just about.
As unconvincing as that is as a pick, that is literally all I based it on. What about you?
Yeah, literally. I was like, which of these is the least bad out of the two? Probably the Broncos, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Last 3 games of the week, we have. Oh, this is a tasty one, to be fair. So we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travelling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Now, obviously, Andy's riding with the same reason that I've picked the Packers to beat the Cardinals. Andy's gone with the Bucs to get the win here because obviously he's picked them to go to the dance. So he's not going to change that pick now, is he? He's got to throw all his weight behind him. Whereas both me and Amy have picked the Saints to get the win here. I just think at home they might have enough. Alvin Kamara's started to look good. He's back sort of. I think he had over 100 yards receiving on Monday night. So he's picking up in the receiving game as well as the run game. I just think he'll have enough there to take the Bucs down. Andy definitely not convinced there, is he? So
I'm more baffled than anything.
and it's the point that apart from the playoff game last season, the Saints have owned the Bucks over the last 4 or 5 years. So watch this space anyway. Watch this space.
Okay.
We'll move to the Sunday night football. This will be at about 12 p.m, about midnight in the UK. Sorry, it'll be 12 a.m, wouldn't it? So 12 p.m. is midday. With the time difference. So we have the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Minnesota Vikings, both coming off the bye. Both myself and Andy have made the sensible pick of going for the Dallas Cowboys, whereas Amy sees something in the Vikings, apparently. Must be all that Kirk Cousins love she's got. And then, closing out the week, it's the Monday Night Football. And I don't know what the Giants did to deserve this, but they've been put in prime time. They've been put against the Chiefs. We shouldn't have predicted the winner of this game. We should have predicted how many touchdowns Mahomes will throw, or how many yards he'll throw for, or what the margin of victory will be. Because this just smells of Mahomes pissed off. Not revenge game, because the Giants haven't done anything to him, but the sort of game that it's exactly the sort of game that the Chiefs had won.
It's to send a message, isn't it?
Not a great opponent. A chance to put the record straight, put some points on the board. Nice, comprehensive victory. I mean, it's not going to be anything else other than a handsome Chiefs win, is it?
No, it's not.
So that's how we've all gone. We've all gone for a Chiefs victory. So that, my friend, is this week's predictions.
Well, there we go.
Done and dusted.
I guess that's it. That just brings us to the any other business section. I think I might have covered off everything I had on my list that sat outside of things like the stats and stuff like that. Obviously, we had interesting games and interesting outcomes. Ball stealing, cancer surviving, Buccaneer games, and everything in between. Anything from you, sir?
I've got nothing else.
In that case, I'll say to these lovely people who are either watching or listening, enjoy the games, enjoy the time difference, that one point in time where you can actually just really enjoy that extra hour. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Join us next week when we find out who won this week and talk more NFL football. Till then, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from him. See you later, people.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Another week of the season gone. Another week to look forward to. Fingers crossed I can get a win this week. We shall see. As I said at the top of the podcast, if you are checking us out, whether it's YouTube, SoundCloud or iTunes, wherever you're getting your podcasts, if you can subscribe, it's amazing. It helps the podcast, it helps the channel, and ultimately it helps everybody because it means we can bring more fantastic content your way. You can also jump over to our website, thecookiecast.com. Over there, we've got a little website, but it's got everything you need to get in touch with us. Social media links, and there's even an email button. Drop us a line, let us know how you're getting on, and if it's a good one, we'll read it out on air. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.